Hello my dear friends, you're on the Military Summary channel, and this video we're going to discuss the most important events that took place during the previous 12 hours. As you know, yesterday the Minister of Defense of Russian Federation, Vladimir Putin, and the head of Wagner, Prigozhin, got an agreement about the situation, got an agreement about the future of Wagner, about the future of Russia, about the future of the head of Wagner's Prigozhin, and as a result of those agreements that were reached with help of the President of Republic of Belarus, Alexander Grigorievich Lukashenko, Wagner's will be moved back to the camps, to the military camps, and basically we don't know exactly where exactly these Wagner forces were redeployed, so we will move just these forces closer to the combat line. So somewhere on this territory these forces were redeployed, probably maybe in the vicinity of Belgorod, maybe they will return back to Luhansk or DPR, who knows. And according to those agreements, Prigozhin will leave Russia and he will move to the Republic of Belarus. So basically we can change his country of residence, and now he has a Belarusian flag, and yesterday he have already left Rostov-on-Don, and now we can move him to Belarus. And people are joking that currently Belarus has nuclear weapon and Belarus has Prigozhin, and basically Belarus has the most powerful weapons in the world, including Prigozhin, including nuclear weapon. Of course, Prigozhin have a lot of job to do on the territory of Belarus, because if you remember yesterday there was a video and we discussed on the channel that the Belarusian opposition forces announced the beginning of special operation against the president of Belarus. And as we know, Prigozhin is not just like a well-trained general or commander, he's also a well-trained, experienced like instructor and person who can train Belarusian special forces to fight and to prevent any attempts from the Western countries to make a military core or scope or something like this. So I believe he is going to have a lot of job to do on the territory of Belarus, or some sources are saying that maybe Prigozhin will leave Belarus as well and he will fly to Africa, because he also has a lot of things to do in the territory of Africa. Anyway, the situation have been resolved. Furthermore, the Russians published the video how the squads took their armored vehicles, their light vehicles, trucks, and left Rostov-on-Don, the central part of that settlement. We haven't received any updates about the future of Ahmad Special Unit, because a lot of those units were redeployed in direction of Rostov-on-Don. Probably they will be returned back to the territory of a DPR, LPR or something like this, but for now we will keep them in Rostov-on-Don, and then we will see what are we going to do next. A lot of questions that we still haven't received any answers is about the destiny of the Minister of Defense of Russian Federation, Sergei Shoigu, and the head and the Chief of General Staff of Armed Forces of Russian Federation, Valery Gerasimov, because the sources are saying and the rumors are that one of the points of Prigozhin agreement was to dismiss these two persons. For now we still haven't received anything, and the official office of Putin reported that during the negotiation process between Wagner and Putin there were no paragraphs and nothing was discussed about the future of these two guys. Anyway, the reputation of these two persons is very low currently among soldiers, among officers, because basically Prigozhin is a hero because he was fighting for his truth, and after everything he almost haven't spilled the blood, and after that he left the territory and he stopped that situation. So basically Putin and Prigozhin has increased the reputation, both them, and we haven't received any updates from both of these two guys. People are saying that in the weeks we're going to see the real picture about them. So let's wait, and then we will update the map and update the story of those peoples. During the previous days, the last 2 days, there were a lot of updates about Wagner's, about this possible military coup, and we have missed the most important events on the combat line. So let's discuss them very fast. The piece of information about the crossing Dnipro River with Ukrainian tanks haven't been confirmed. We haven't received any more updates about that. Maybe they have crossed, but maybe that was rumors. There was just one message in Telegram channels among the military experts, and after that nobody confirmed that. Furthermore, the same piece of piece of news we received from the Kharkiv area. For example, the Rybar blogger reported that there is like unconfirmed rumors that the Russians start offensive operation in direction of Ovchansk and Ruskaya. But as I understand, that was some kind of just a small speculation and possible like thing to a little bit increase the temperature of the Russian officers. The most important updates are coming from Kupiansk front line. During the previous 48 hours, I believe, so the Russians, as a result of fierce fightings and storming operation, managed to establish control over Sinkovka. At least we got this update, and basically the Russians have already maintained the bridgehead in this area, maintained the combat line, and now the beginning of Petropavlovka has started. But I'm not saying that this is going to be a very easy job, because Petropavlovka is a very difficult town to capture. It's like the situation and position of the settlement Petropavlovka in comparison with the Russian bridgehead is the same as Solidar during the Solidar battle. The city is very small but very long, and the Russians need to attack and establish block by block, and furthermore, some point of attack they can get attack from the Ukrainian side in their flank. So anyway, I'm not sure that the Russians are going to attack just Petropavlovka. They will attack using the broad front line attack, and they will try to at the same time they will try to enter the northern outskirts of Kupiansk and Petropavlovka as well. We haven't received any updates about further bridgehead of the Russians on the Ukrainian side of Oskol River. If you remember, a few days ago we got that the Russians managed to cross the river to establish bridgehead and to maintain the bridgehead to prepare everything for a further upcoming offensive operation, but for now we still haven't received. We will keep in touch about this. We'll follow the situation, because without this bridgehead on this side of Oskol River, I don't see any possibilities to run successful operation of successful Kupiansk offensive operation. The Ministry of Defense reported that during the previous 24 hours, 48 I believe, so like a day ago, as a result of fierce fightings on this bridgehead, the Ukrainians lost 30 soldiers. So as you can see, the level of losses is very low, and the level of losses is not correlated with the picture on the ground with the Russian developments, at least in the vicinity of Sinkovka. Now we're moving further to the south, and we're going to talk about Liman. There were very heavy clashes on this territory. The Russians report they bombed the positions and the ammo depots of 63rd and 66th Brigades. This is 66th Brigade, probably located in the vicinity of Nevskaya. And in the vicinity of Tarskoye, the Russians bombed the positions of 63rd Mechanized Brigade. As a result of fightings all over the combat line, including those shellings and bombings from the Russian side, the Ukrainians lost 100 soldiers. So as you can see, the level of losses is very high. At least it remains very high in comparison with the situation, let's say, a month ago. When talking about Bilogorovka, the Russians reported that as a result of fierce fightings and storming operation and clearing operation, they managed to establish control over this industrial area, and they got very close to Bilogorovka, but there are still no updates and no positive piece of information about establishing control over the settlement. When talking about this industrial area, during the previous months, this settlement changed its owner for a few times. Probably there were a lot of updates. Even special unit Akhmat, as we remember, months ago managed to capture, but later they either was or encircled or probably pushed by Ukrainians. Anyway, after they lost control over that settlement, and currently the Russians confirmed for another time in a row that they captured. So we'll see whether they are able to hold these positions or they will be forced to step back within a week or something like this. When talking about Artyomovsk front line, the Ukrainians, according to information we have, launched a massive offensive operation, and a lot of sources are saying that Ukrainians achieved significant success. The Russians bound. And during the situation with Prigozhin, the Ministry of Defense of Russian Federation reported that as a result, during the situation with Wagner, the Ukrainians took a decision to use that situation and to get some benefits from that situation, and they accumulated forces and battalions of 35th and 36th Brigades, and that was very strange because we know that most of the parts of 35th and 36th Brigades are located in the vicinity of Vremivka Tactical Bridgehead. This is like forces of 36th Brigade. This is 35th Brigade in Makarovka, and some forces of 36th Brigade located in the vicinity of Peski, but we haven't received never receive updates about the location of those brigades in the vicinity of Bakhmut. I don't know how did the Minister of Defense prepare that report. Maybe the Ukrainians have redeployed those forces to this combat line. I don't know, I can't tell you. But anyway, the Ukrainians launched, and some Western maps shows that as a result of those attacks, the Ukrainians managed to develop their bridgehead. Almost got in the vicinity of Yahidne. The Ukrainians, according to those updates, managed to penetrate some defense orders between Zhelyznyansk and Dubovo-Vasilyevka. Some sources are saying that Ukrainians have captured the most powerful trenches in the north of Klishchievka. And some sources are saying that Ukrainians managed to answer even Kurdyumovka. This piece of information is confirmed just by the Western mappers. The Russians haven't provided any updates about, because I'm not saying that it's not true. I'm just saying that during the previous 48 hours, the Russians mainly was concentrated on the situation with Wagner, and they just didn't pay attention. Or they paid, but most of the people paid more attention to the situation with Wagner and Prigozhin, but not with the situation on the ground. The Russians published the video as a result of one of those attacks from the Ukrainian side. They managed to discover the Ukrainian forces and to capture them. And the Russians are saying that they captured the forces of 21st Battalion of 56th Brigade. This is 56th Brigade, and this is their air responsibility. I put this icon softly because that video was not geolocated. I just pushed this video closer to the positions of 56th Motorized Brigade that located in the area of Orekhovo-Vasilievka and Zhelyznyanskaya. Now we're moving further to Avdiivka. The Russians reported that during the previous 48 hours, managed to repel attacks of the Ukrainians in the vicinity of Veselaya, in the vicinity of Oputna, Avdiivka, and Pervomayskaya, and of course in the vicinity of Mariinka, without any changes on the ground. The total losses of the Ukrainians were around 245 soldiers, 8 armored vehicles, and 2 artillery systems. So as you can see, the level of losses have been increased in comparison for the 24th of June in comparison with the 23rd of June. Because on the 23rd of June, the Ukrainians lost 90 soldiers on the same front line. So as you can see, after a small operational pause that probably was connected with the situation with Wagner or something like this, the Russians restarted and restored their activity, and currently they're trying to defend themselves, and at some points they're trying to attack the Ukrainians. When talking about the Vremivka tactical bridgehead, the same situation. The Russians repelled a lot of attacks in direction of this small settlement Rovnopol, in direction of Makarovka, from Makarovka to Staromayorsk, in the fields and so on. Yeah, also the Ukrainians tried to sign some reserves to help their forces to offense, and the Russians are saying that they bombed the convoys and columns that were heading to the combat line. Also, the Russians published more videos about the work of helicopters, and very interesting situation, because know that since the 4th of June, as we discussed, the Ukrainians haven't managed to shut down even a single helicopter during the special operation, during the counter-offensive operation. And yes, just for one day, the Russians lost 12 pilots and a lot of airplanes, machines as a result of military strike of Wagner's. So we see the level, and we see the difference in weapon that the Russians have and the Ukrainians have. Probably, as I understand, the Russians have a very powerful weapon, and they do know how to shut down the enemy's helicopters and airplanes, including their own. So it's very interesting situation. Now we're moving to the Vremivka tactical bridgehead. We got a lot of updates. The Ukrainians launched attack, and that one of those attacks was geolocated in the south of Novodanilovka, in the direction of Robotina. Basically, this attack confirms that Ukrainians managed to penetrate or to develop the bridgehead to the south of Novodanilovka, but the Russians control this territory, and as a result of that video, you see how the Russians attacked the Ukrainian convoy that were heading towards the Russian positions during the daylight, and as a result of those attacks, a few armored vehicles were destroyed. There is infantry who left armored vehicles, and after that there was another explosion or probably mine. Very difficult to understand. Some sources are saying, and Riber confirms, that as a result of fierce fightings, the Ukrainians managed to develop the bridgehead from the south of Novodanilovka, this one. So basically, according to for now unconfirmed information, the Ukrainians have developed their bridgehead in the south of Novodanilovka, something like this. Most of the Western mappers confirmed this information. I believe that we need to wait a little bit, because I suppose that this territory is in the gray zone. Furthermore, the Russians published the video of another convoy of destroyed Leopards and the armored vehicles. As you can see, there's significant losses of the Western weapon. Currently, they can't do anything, and this is one of the reasons why the Ukrainians still haven't involved in these operations, the challengers, because they don't want just to risk it. They don't want to lose reputation of another weapon producer. During the previous days, the Russians bombed Ukrainian positions in Preobrazhenka, in Novodanilovka, in Mali Sherbaki, and when talking about Petykhatki, the situation remains the same. Some sources are saying that the entire Petykhatki is under Ukrainian control. Some sources are saying that the Russian controls the southern part of that settlement. For now, anyway, even if the Ukrainians controls Petykhatki, we can't call this as a real control, because they can't use the benefits and advances of this bridgehead. And basically, they just can't develop their bridgehead further to Zherebyanki, or at least to the fields. For now, the Ukrainians don't have such resources. The Russians reported that as a result of fierce fightings on the combat line from Petykhatki to Vremevka tactical bridgehead, the Ukrainians lost 170 soldiers, 21 armored vehicles, and 3 tanks. And when talking about Kherson one more time, we haven't received any confirmation that the Ukrainians managed to cross, just was one update, but anyway, we need to follow this. And as a result of fightings, the Ukrainians lost 45 soldiers, 2 armored vehicles, and 5 artillery systems on this territory. And that's it for this video. Thank you for watching. Military Summary channel reminds to condemn any violence in Ukraine. Thank you for watching. Subscribe to my channel, put your likes, join my Patreon, and have a good day. Bye bye.